Great. Okay, so all lying on your front with your head on your hands. If it's not comfortable to lie with your head resting on your hands, feel free to tuck a cushion underneath your forehead. But it's nice to have the forehead resting on the hands so that the face is free, you know, so that the breath flows easily. And as we arrive on the ground, you know, it can feel strange. It can feel strange to stop, okay? Let's recognize that it can feel uncomfortable to be still sometimes, and that's okay. That doesn't mean we're doing stuff wrong. Doesn't mean we can't do it. Relaxation is a gradual process. It's a gradual process, and it's something that we can practice regularly. It's not always going to be easy. So what we do is we just observe. We observe the process of relaxation. So right now, you're just arriving onto the mat. Who knows what you've been up to this morning? There's no need to feel like you should feel completely relaxed right now. But what you can do is start to bring awareness to sensation in your body. And you've got this wonderful grounding across the whole of the front of the body here. So the forehead resting on the hands, you've got the chest, the abdomen resting on the ground, the front of the hips, the thighs, the legs, the front of the feet, the toes, all grounded. We know that grounding the body, grounding our energy, is a really healthy thing for us to do. And perhaps getting a sense of allowing the ground to receive your body. Can you allow the ground to receive the whole of your body? So that there's a sense of it spreading, perhaps, and the imprint becoming a bit bigger on the ground. Give your body space. So we are aware of sensation. You might notice parts of the body relaxing and becoming heavy already, comfortably relaxing easily. It's really nice to take note of those places. And at the same time, there might be areas of the body which aren't quite ready to relax yet. And that's okay too. So we're just noticing these things. Parts of the body relaxing and becoming heavy, and other parts too. And tuning into your inner experience. And that's what we do in our yoga practice. We're tuning into our inner experience, whatever that may be. Tuning in and listening. How does the body feel? So you might have already become aware of your breath. And we're not going to try and change it right now or control it. We're just meeting the breath where it is. Just meet your breath where it is right now. And trust that your body knows how to breathe. In the same way that we check in with the body, with the physical sensations in the body, we also take a moment to check in with the quality of the mind and the way that we feel. So by that I mean, it's okay if you arrive on the mat and your mind is very busy. That's completely natural. Or if you've arrived onto the mat and you do feel particularly calm already, take note of that. Acknowledge it. It's nice to notice these things. Maybe you've got something particular on your mind or a particular emotion that you're arriving onto the mat with. And all of that is okay. We are practicing being present with whatever arises. Comfortable and uncomfortable. Practicing being present with ourselves with an awareness that these things are all transient. They change and they pass. We can use sensation in the body and the breath to really begin to focus our awareness away from the thinking mind, to begin to quieten the thinking mind and rest the mind. So drawing awareness into sensation and becoming aware of your breath. Watching the inhale and the exhale, each breath. Noticing how the breath feels. How the breath feels in the nostrils, down the back of the throat, into the lungs, behind the heart, and following that journey back out. So beginning just with observation, awareness of the breath, breath awareness. And removing any kind of judgment of anything being right or wrong, or good or bad. Just allowing things to be as they are. This is a really great position to be lying in for the body to release gradually, and for the spine to be supported here. And it's also a really good position to be in because we've got some feedback against the front of the body to start to begin to find the expansion in the body as we inhale. So as we breathe, the inhale brings an expansion to the body moves, it expands. And as we breathe out, there's release in the diaphragm, and that can send a flood of release through the rest of the body. It has that ability. So see if you can start to notice that expansion as you breathe in and the release as you breathe out. Where do you feel the expansion? And where do you feel the release? And we're going to focus on the front of the body. So you've got the abdomen resting on the ground, and as you breathe in, perhaps you can start to really get a sense of the abdomen expanding, and you can feel that as it presses into the ground. So we can really connect with that expansion with the feedback of the ground beneath us. And often in yoga classes, we're directed to breathe into the belly, this belly breath. And it's got a wonderful place. It's a really good tool for activating the parasympathetic nervous system. But what we can also do is begin to use the diaphragm, the lungs, really, really effectively by expanding through the whole 360 degrees of the body. So finding the expansion in the front of the body is the first stage, and hopefully you can get a sense of that. And then we're going to think about drawing the breath into the sides of the body. So the ribs move apart as we breathe in. They have the ability to move apart as we breathe in, floating away from each other, and then draw back together as we breathe out. And maybe you can imagine that like bellows. So as you breathe in, the ribs just floating away from each other, creating space for the breath. And as we breathe out, they're drawing back towards one another, and that movement and breath is working wonderfully together, supporting each other. So the movement supports the breath supports the movement. So maybe you can get a sense of that expansion into the side ribs, the space between the ribs, the soft tissue. And it might just be tiny, tiny movement. You don't have to expect it to be huge. So you're breathing, expanding into front and sides of the body. And then you've got that sense of release on the exhale. And then we've got this ability to draw the breath into the back of the body as well. So we can start to use the whole 360 degrees of the torso. So we've got the front of the body expanding, the sides, and can you also draw the breath into the back of the body as well? The back of the body expands, rises. You've got a sense of it rising and falling with breath. So now you're bringing even more movement into your body in stillness, simply with the breath. The breath is moving into muscles, connective tissue, bone structure even. The bone structure is being shifted and moved with each gentle, steady breath. Breathing into your spine. You can even direct the breath to specific parts. So you might want to try directing the breath to your lower back and getting a sense of the lower back rising and falling. Maybe that spot where the trousers sit, the top of the waistband. You get a sense of that space rising and falling as you breathe in and out. That's great. Okay, we're going to slowly roll onto our side. So just rolling slowly onto the side. You can support your head with your hands. And bring your hands just to cup the side ribs. So find your side ribs, and your thumb and your first finger sort of can slot just nicely around the side ribs. So you've got one set of ribs against the ground, and then one is cupped by the hand. So we've got that feedback again, tactile feedback, which I think is so helpful. So just working again to find the expansion as you breathe in and release as you breathe out. And maybe you can feel the ribs moving against the ground, against the hand as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, they're drawing back in again. So as well as sideways expansion with the breath, and this is something that you might think of when we come into the poses, we've also got the expansion moving up and down. So outwards, upwards, downwards. So as you breathe in, you've also got breath moving into the collarbones, the top of the shoulder, the chest, the neck. And then downwards, you've got expansion into the hips and the pelvic floor. Obviously, that's the downwards release, the downwards expansion. So that's something that maybe might become more apparent in other poses that we come into. But just having that awareness that each breath is actually bringing movement throughout the whole body in a really subtle way, subtle but powerful way. One of my teachers told me, said that this looks like the Kate Winslet, what I'm doing here. So sorry about that. Just doing a bit of a Kate Winslet, you know, like in Titanic, when she's posing. Oh dear, love it. Couple more breaths here, into the ribs, find that expansion, find the release. Practicing this stuff. And it is subtle, but it's powerful. One more breath here. Good. So we're going to set that intention to keep the breath expansive, and we're going to move over onto all fours slowly. Take your time, there's no rush. We're going to have the big toes behind us touching and the knees apart. So wide-legged position, and bringing the hands just in front of you. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to, again, this is a really good position to start to get a sense of the upwards and downwards expansion. So just take a couple of breaths here. Drop back into that expansion and release rhythm. So you're pushing the ground away. There's some activity, not sinking into the shoulders. The shoulders are active. Expanding back of the body, sides of the body, front of the body. Maybe you can get a sense of your pelvic floor as you breathe in and out. So there's no force. We're not trying to suck up or anything like that, but just maybe you can feel it up into the neck as you breathe in, expansion up into the collarbones. Good. One more breath here. And then we're going to slowly keep the spine long as you start to pad the hands forwards. So what can tend to happen is when I say come into child's pose, what we might, if we're doing it very quickly, do is round down. If we go slow, we can maybe keep the spine nice and long. So it's almost like I'm dropping the chest down first as I move down. And that makes it stronger because your spine is really lengthening out here. So that mid-back, which has a tendency to round naturally, we are countering that. We are lengthening it. So you might not, in fact, we're not going to come all the way down. We're going to make a pillow for our forehead with our hands. So just make two fists and bring the forehead to the fist. And just focus on that space, the spine between the shoulder blades. Long spine. So we're starting to counter all the rounding that we do when we sit at desks, and you know, it's so natural that we do that, but in our yoga practice we can start to unpick some of those habits that might not be serving us. Each in-breath there's expansion, each out-breath there's release. You might get a sense of the expansion into the hips here, the hip sockets. There's space for the ribs to move, the belly to move. Good. Okay, we're going to slowly make our way back where we came. Hands come down to the ground and walk them back in space so that they're about shoulder width apart. And we're going to just drop the chin to the chest and start to round into that upper back section now. So exaggerating the natural tendency to round the upper back. And you can give the head a little shake out and just notice whether there's any tension in the neck at all, any tension in the jaw. This is your opportunity to release that. Give it a little shake. You might want to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth with a sigh. To really let that jaw go. One more breath here. And then we're going to take it forwards again. So first of all, start to lengthen through the spine as you look forwards. So just bring the spine back to neutral and then see if you can lengthen that mid-back before we even move the hands forwards. And then we can pad the hands forwards again. So this time we might find it a little bit more comfortable because we're used to it. We know where we're going, we know what's going on. So this time I'm going to offer you the opportunity to take the elbows a bit wider, the hands a bit wider, and you might want to bring the forehead to the ground. But while you do that, you're still focusing on this mid-back section lengthening. So it might feel quite strong, because it is quite strong to stretch out that rounded, our mid-back is naturally rounded, so we're countering that, and that takes work to do that. But the arms, don't feel like you have to stretch the arms out straight yet. We're going to go to that next, but just let the arms be relaxed. Get the spine long first, forehead on the ground comfortably. Remember, I'm layering this stuff up, so you can always take it back a step. You can always bring the head back to fists. And if it's uncomfortable having the hips towards the heels like this, you can always lift the bum up in the air, have the hips a bit higher. Not everyone is comfortable to be that flexed in the knees, so that's okay. Always lift the hips up. Forehead resting wherever it is, whether it's on the hands or the ground. Give the forehead, give the head to the ground. And you get a sense of your brain relaxing in your head. It's nice to rock the forehead from side to side here, like a nice little massage across the sinuses. So you can just rock the head from one side to the other. We're moving easily, we're moving with ease. So there is no place for force here, there's no need for it, no benefit at all. And then coming back to center. So perhaps you've got a sense of your chest opening towards the ground. Armpits are opening. Just easily, slightly, you're just opening up the armpits slightly. And then we're going to slowly move back to where we came from. So press the hands into the ground. Really support yourself as you come up. And we'll take it into that exaggerated rounding shape again. So chin moves towards chest. And we're countering that work we just did with a rounding into the upper back, which probably feels the more natural and comfortable. Again, if you want to give the head a little shake from side to side, or just move it gently. Releasing tension around the jaw, the neck. The shoulders are supporting you here because they're holding you up. So they are working, but you can still get a sense of them relaxing. So there's not unnecessary tension there. Okay, last time I'm going to go down again. So lengthen the spine out by just looking forwards and upwards and getting the spine nice and long. Good, and then we'll move forward. So now we'll go for the whole child's pose, and what a simple pose, but you know, we can make it more challenging just by going slower like this. So it might feel quite strong on the shoulders to come all the way down with the forehead on the ground and the spine long. You can always come back to bent elbows. You can always come back to hands on fists, head on fists. So just deciding which option is right for you today. And coming back to expansion and release. Body in stillness, but moving with the breath. Good, let's slowly walk our hands back. Support yourself. Walk the hands back. We're going to make our way to tabletop now, so you can tip forwards on the knees and give them a bit of a break now. Tuck the toes under, spread out the fingers. Get a sense of stability into your shoulders. So find tabletop, again, another real simple one, but actually bring some, you know, stability to it. Find your foundations, palms of the hands, grounded, toes tucked under, spine stable now. Okay, you've got the natural curves there, shoulders stable. And then we're going to lift the knees and lift the hips and make our way to downwards facing dog. You can replant the feet, replant the hands to find some sense of steadiness and ease here. It's a balancing act, finding steadiness and also a sense of ease. Coming back to the breath, the expansion, the release. How can you create more space in your body here, in the spine? The spine, you know, is vertebra stacked on vertebra with these spaces between these synovial joints that they can move. You know, they're bouncy. You can stretch them out. You can compress them. Let's see if we can stretch them out and create some space in the spine from the tailbone to the crown of the head. So what I mean by that is have a move around and see what makes your spine feel longer. Is it bending the knees? Is it having the feet a little bit wider? Does that allow the spine to lengthen? Does the lower back feel long? You can relax the head, the neck. And breath, coming back to the breath, back to the expansion. Where do you feel it here? Okay, slowly we're going to walk the hands back towards the feet. As slowly as you can, you pick up one hand and you move it back in space, plant it back down. You pick up the other hand, you move it back in space, you plant it down. You walk the hands back towards the feet slowly, and we'll find a forward fold position that feels comfortable in your body. So that might mean that the hands come all the way down to the ground. Your knees might be bent, that's okay. Maybe the hands don't come comfortably to the ground, so you could rest your hands on your legs, or you can take hold of either elbow. If the lower back doesn't feel like it wants to round too much, or it feels uncomfortable, take it up a bit. Bring it more into this longer spine position. You don't necessarily have to round all the way down. So I want you to be guided by sensation in your body, tracking that internal experience, sensation. How does your body feel? And adjusting as you need to find that balance between steadiness and ease. Check in with the back of the neck, check in with the jaw. Expansion and release. Okay, let's walk the hands forwards. So you're back in downwards facing dog. And this time I want you to take the feet really wide, so maybe even wider than the mat. Release the heels towards the ground, so the knees can still be bent, but just explore this wider leg version and how it feels different. Does it give you more space in the spine? How does it feel different in the legs? No right or wrong, just exploring different positions. And it doesn't have to be static. If you need to move, then you can move. You can replant your hands. You can replant your feet. You can make a choice based on your experience. So we're going to walk the hands back in the same way that we did before. One hand at a time. So what we're doing is we're building up a bit of strength in our arms as we do that each time. The weight comes back into the heels and we come into a wide-legged forward fold. Same things apply. Your hands might comfortably come to the ground. Your knees can be as bent as you need them to be. Or you might have hold of either elbow, if that feels comfortable, or you might have it in a half forward fold, where there's not as much rounding going on in the spine. And sometimes that can feel more comfortable, especially for the lower back. It really depends on your body. So we're not going for maximum stretch. There's no particular place that we're trying to get to. There's no force needed. How can we create more space in the body? How can we create more space around the joints? Do the shoulders feel spacious? Could you give them a little shake out? How do the hips feel? The knees, the ankles, the toes, the neck, the spine? Okay, let's slowly walk the hands forwards to come back into our downwards facing dog. So walk the hands forwards, walk the toes, the feet in to a regular looking downwards facing dog. And we're going to slowly lower the knees to the ground to come into tabletop, back to where we were. So you're just slowly lowering the knees down, nice and slow, nice and slow. The slower you go, the more strength you're going to be building up each time. Nice and slow. Good. We're coming down onto the knees, lightly touch the knees down, untuck the toes. We're going to come up onto our knees. And bring the hands behind, interlace the fingers. So you can either interlace the fingers or you can take hold of either elbow. Okay? So just see which feels more comfortable in your body. So either way, we're getting this sense of opening across the chest again and lengthening through this mid-back section. And the lower back's just relaxed. So the lower back doesn't really have to be doing too much at all. Okay, so if you've got the hands, the fingers interlaced behind your back, you've got this sort of way that you can draw the shoulder blades together a bit more by lifting that fist up and away behind you, just as much as is comfortable. You know, there's not, again, it's like, even I'm like reminding myself, don't force. You don't need to force it. There's nowhere to get to. Maybe take it down a notch. Maybe lift the chin just a little. Let's not take the head all the way up and back. Just lift the chin and open up the throat. As long as that feels comfortable in your neck. Just opening up the throat. Again, breath. Where do you feel it? Good. Let's release the fingers, release the arms. And slowly just float them all the way up. Just float the arms up. Nice and slow. Arms floating up behind you, up and then behind. We're going to turn the palms around, just take them all the way back behind, all the way back behind, all the way back behind. You can maybe get a sense of your shoulder blades coming into the back there. Good. We're going to think about maybe just bringing the fingertips up the back here to get a little bit of a stretch into the fingers. Can you feel that? If you put your fingertips upwards. So we're drawing the shoulder blades into the back again as we do that. And the upper arms are drawing in towards one another. So that might be enough, just the fingertips might just be enough. Or you maybe, depending on how comfortable the fingers are, you can sort of maybe start to draw them up a little bit further. Either way, can you just begin to put a little bit of support there for your lower back? Might be just the fingertips in there, or it might be sort of the pads of the hands. Okay, stable base of support on the knees. And we're going to take an inhale, just to lift the chest and breathe out. So each inhale, just think about lifting the chest. Lifting the chest. And all we're going to do is just lift the chin slightly. So there's no need to take the head all the way back. We're just opening the throat, lifting the chest, lifting the heart. Each breath. One more breath. Good. Let's release the hands. And the body just naturally sort of starts to curl back to its natural curves. And we'll sink the hips back towards the heels. And we're going to start to make our way into a child's pose again. So we're going to lay the chest over the thighs. So again, it's this sense of lengthening forwards, chest draping over the thighs. Let's start with our hands as a pillow for the forehead. So again, we're going to ease into it, draping the chest, the spine over the legs, length, creating that length. So you're not having to worry too much about the neck and the upper back rounding loads yet. You're finding the length in the spine first. Finding that expansion, finding the release in the body. Where do you feel it? And then after a couple of breaths here, you might find that you can release the hands and bring the forehead to the ground, or maybe just flatten the hands, or just have one hand to support the forehead. So it's like you're just bringing the forehead a little bit lower and easing into the full child's pose so that the forehead comes to the ground around the hairline. And maybe the arms are coming alongside you so that the shoulders can drop. They can just drop now, drape across your back and towards the ground. The backs of the hands are resting on the ground alongside you. It's this gradual process. No rush, no force. Giving the body space and time. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders slowly. Push yourself up. Again, take your time. And we'll make our way to seated with the legs outstretched. So you might want to sit on a cushion. You might want to bring a little bit of height to the hips. And we're going to bend the knees. We're going to bend the knees quite a lot. It's a little bit like a seated squat almost position. The knees, the feet are quite wide. Get that sense of the sit bones against the ground, the spine long. And we're going to wrap the arms under and through and underneath the calves, and just gently hold the outside edges of the feet. So you've got this, we're starting to move into a forward fold kind of a position. The spine rounds here, but it also lengthens. So you've got that sort of, it is rounded, but we're also working to lengthen it at the same time. So it's that encouraging of the chest to move forwards. And, you know, again, it doesn't have to be static. You know, often in this kind of position, I might like to just rock a little bit. It's almost quite comforting, isn't it? Sometimes more comforting than just coming into a strange position like this, let's be honest. A bit strange, isn't it? And feeling like you have to be very still straight away. So sometimes just a little bit of movement is soothing for the nervous system. And then if you feel comfortable to do so, you can maybe start to stretch the legs out a little bit, but you know, there's no benefit to that necessarily. It's about how your body feels. Is that going to feel good? That stretch, that increased stretch, and that's what it is, isn't it? Does that feel good in your body? Knowing your body. And the knees, or the inner knees, inner thighs are connected with your outer shoulders. Chest moving forwards, breath moving freely. Relax the neck. It's so easy, isn't it, to hold the head so tense unnecessarily. Let it go, and your body might then release maybe a little bit more. Maybe it feels comfortable to then just settle into that position a little bit more deeply. Okay, slowly unwind the arms and place the hands down to support yourself again, to come back up, support yourself, support yourself. Give yourself that support. Come all the way back up. And we'll bring the legs together. We're going to slowly come down onto our back. So I suggest today that we come over onto our side like this and use the hands to really come down slowly. Support your spine as you come all the way down. Again, it's this tendency, we all have to rush, and we are right now, this is the space to take your time. Come down onto your back, knees bent, feet about hip distance apart. Good. Okay, so we're going to relax the hands by your sides, palms face up or down, see how you feel. I quite like to have my palms facing upwards, get that sense of opening the chest. And then press into the feet, wriggle the toes, press into the feet and lift up into your bridge. Now, don't look at the screen while you do this, don't look from side to side. Keep the chin tracking forwards as we come into this back bend. Knees tracking forwards. And again, let's just find the breath here. In bridge. And then slowly lower back down. So take it nice and slow. You roll down vertebra by vertebra. Upper back, mid back, lower back, coming down last. And we'll do that again. So again, wiggle the toes, press into the whole of the foot to lift. And with this time, we're going to take the shoulders underneath the body. So you're just going to roll your shoulders underneath. It's like what we were doing before, shoulder blades coming into the back. Same position like when we were on our knees, really. And we can interlace the fingers here underneath us. Interlace the fingers to make a fist, if that feels comfortable. Okay, so remember, you're layering it up. You don't have to do that. You can take it back a notch, back a stage. So the shoulder blades coming into the back, chest opening, back of the neck long. Good. Release the hands. Release the shoulders. And then roll back down. Nice and slow, controlled. Take as long as you need. When the lower back comes down to the ground, we're going to draw the knees into the chest. And we're going to make tiny circles with the knees together. Just drawing tiny circles with the knees to really target the sacrum, that flat part of the lower back. Getting a little massage as you make those circles with the knees one way. And then take it in the other direction. Good. And then we're going to float the feet up into the air. So this can feel quite effortful sometimes, so you can always tuck your hands underneath the lower back. So underneath that flat part of the lower back that we were just massaging, the sacrum, tuck your hands underneath, and that can be quite supportive. So it's almost like I put my hands like this underneath me. Feet just floating up in the air. The knees can be bent, the feet can be hip distance apart. We're just getting the feet up above the heart and the head. For the benefits of the inversion, you might want to move the ankles a little bit. Release the ankles, maybe circle them. And then when you're ready, just settling into stillness. Stillness and breath. Slowly draw the knees back in, but keep the knees wide. Keep them drawing out and in and out and in and out and in. So it's like we're coming back into that kind of squat position that we were in when we were sitting down. Just let the legs drop in. The thigh bones are dropping in towards your body, into the hip sockets. That's just a real sense of everything being relaxed, not having to hold anything particularly. Just let the legs hang suspended in this way, just dropping in towards the body, knees towards armpits. You can even bring a gentle rock from side to side across the lower back. It's almost, I suppose, it's a little bit like a happy baby, but without grabbing the feet. I'm not grabbing the feet. Good. Slowly draw the knees all the way back in. And we'll roll over onto our side. Take a couple of breaths here. A couple of breaths here on your side. Long, slow inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the nose. Use your hand to press to seated, really slow. Support yourself as you come up. Just simply drawing that leg around to come to a cross-legged position or a comfortable seated position that works for you. And we're going to close the eyes and rest the hands. Take a few moments to observe your inner experience. Sensation, observing sensation in the body. The quality of the mind, without any judgment. Thoughts come and go, they pass. Just observing, and the breath. Watching that journey of the breath as it moves into the body, in through the nose, down the back of the throat, into the lungs, behind the heart, and back out. The breath softening now, so we can really let go of any effort around the breath. Just watching that soft, gentle rhythm Aware of that anchor point of the sit bones resting on the ground. And the column of the spine lengthening all the way up to the crown of the head. Relaxed and alert. Let's bring the hands together at the heart. Connect the palms together. Drop the chin towards the chest. And finishing with one last conscious breath together. Long, slow inhale through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the nose. Bring the hands up between the eyes. Then folding forwards towards the ground. Namaste. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So don't feel you have to move anywhere fast or do anything. We've got a break now for about 10 minutes. So if you need to go to the loo or get a cup of tea,